Cool. So yeah, so let's jump into things. I just have a few things that I wanted to touch on, especially now that we're kind of like wrapping up the year and talking about some future ideas for things that could come up and that contributors could pick up now at the end of December and at the beginning of the new year. Some interesting things for Commissar. And yeah, and just as always, we're going to be recording this, so you'll be able to catch it later with timestamps so you can see exactly what we talk about and all of that. But yeah, so I think this could be a good opportunity. And by the way, if anyone has anything in particular that you would like to mention or touch upon, feel free to jump in the chat and let us know, and we can get into that. Always a informal and yeah, community centric conversation here. So just to touch on kind of like some of the plans that we want to like wrap up for the end of December for Commissar, just so we can kind of like get ourselves in the best place to be able to be kind of aggressive and try and open up new features and new fronts in the new year in 2024. I just wanted to touch on some of the work that's been done by Azan, by Tanbir also, and things that we've been coordinating just to have hashed out, as I say, by year's end. So the first thing is the AWS Cost Explorer integration. So this is going to be a completely new way that we're going to try and calculate costs for AWS resources inside of Commissar. As some of you probably already know, in the past it was a bit of a headache because it was a very manual process. We would be comparing the utilization or the number of resources or or we would compare how long the resource had been in existence. So we would take the creation data and compare it with the public data model for the prices of each resource. So it was a very bespoke and service level calculation, which just led to a bunch of inconsistencies because we weren't kind of like taking into account discounts that people might have in their cloud environments and such. So we're taking a different route, which is integrating the Cost Explorer integration, and which is going to lead to just much easier cost calculations for AWS resources, which it also comes with a little bit of a cost to be able to leverage this API. And this is something that we're going to be able to work in to the messaging on Commissar to make sure that whoever wants to keep Commissar as a $0 endeavor, they'll be able to do so. So, but yeah, this is something that we just want to be clear about, and we've been kind of trying really hard that if you do actually want to integrate and enable this Cost Explorer integration, that the cost that you will leverage is very, very low, like less than a couple of dollars a month. Because one of the things that we wanted to do is, especially for a user of Commissar that just fires up Commissar for the very first time, this Cost Explorer widget here at the bottom only really becomes useful, and this is what I mean up until now, it only becomes useful after you start, after a few months pass and you start kind of gathering data on your resources. But when you fire it up with a fresh database, this is very limited, as you can see here. So what we're trying to do also with the AWS Cost Explorer integration is to be able to grab legacy, or not legacy, but historical data. And even if you open up Commissar the first time, you'll be able to get up 6 months of historical cost data, at least at the service level. So Azan is here. Azan's been doing some great work on this in particular. I wanted to pass it over to you if you wanted to share your screen and just give us a little bit of a walkthrough of how the code is being embedded into Commissar and how we can wrap our hands around this integration. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm allowed to share my screen. Could you try turning your sharing off?
Yeah, I think you should be able to
Yep,
know.
now I can. So this was the PR that integrated the Cost Explorer API. Okay. Currently, what we do is, yep, we first of all get like the Cost Explorer API itself returns in the output in forms of pages. Okay, so we want to have all those pages, so that's why this is a list of cost and usage output. So we take up all that list. Okay, we embed the context with that list, and this same context, okay, is consumed by, let's say, like currently for showing how to use it. The same context is passed to each service each resource implementation, and there wherever we want a service cost, we simply use a util function. Okay, I will go through the util function now as well. We simply pass it to the util function with the service name. So what this util function is going to do is it's going to fetch the um, the cost and usage data for this particular service from our list of outputs. Okay, this is the util function for doing this. Currently, you can see, wait, I think there is something that I missed. Hmm. Hmm. One need change. Okay. One change is needed here, but yeah, I've noticed it just now. But this will be fixed. Okay. So this is what it does. It looks through all the outputs. Okay. It goes through the entire list and checks which keys match the service and the region. This region part is the mistake. Region needs to be removed here. And yeah, calculates the total and returns the total, which we use it to embed the metadata with the key service cost. And this is what you know the actual implementation is. And to show you how easy it is to integrate it for every service, this is all the code that's required to use this Cost Explorer API integration in any service. So let's say for CloudFront, you just copy paste these two lines. You just have to mention this CloudFront. You need to know the service name and you need to add it to the metadata field. That's all that's required. Now moving forward with this, there is going to be another layer that we are going to do over it. We are going to be caching this response, this list of cost and usage output in JSON files. Okay, so just one JSON file. So what we are going to do, okay, is we are going to try to read the Cost Explorer cache. If we are unable to read it, then we'll get it. Okay, this is like still a work in progress. So like don't pay too much attention in the time frames, because this time frames, as Jake mentioned, this time frame is going to be different. We want not just data starting from today. We want data, if we are installing Commissar now, then we want the data from 6 months back. So, this still is the same. It only fetches from the beginning of this month. What you want is beginning of last 6 months. Okay, so this needs to be changed, but this is still a work in progress. So yeah, this is what's going to happen here. And like the integration part is still going to remain the same. This is what the implementation looks like. Did I get it all or did I miss something? What do you think, Jake?
No, I think you got it all. The great thing now is that once this work now, which is close to being merged for all and integrated to all of the services, that means that now that cost metrics all the way 6 months back, which is great, is going to be exposed, and then that's going to enable us to put in to start implementing one of the PRDs that Mohammed shared a couple of weeks ago, if not like a week and a half ago, which is going to involve editing, the inventory page here to update the different cost that is shown. So at the moment, for a lot of the for all of the AWS resources, we won't show it. We won't show the per resource cost, but we will show the service cost. So we're going to need to change the way that is shown in different areas inside of Commissar. So I'm really looking forward to that work being merged pretty quickly, so we can start seeing what that's actually going to translate to in the front end of Commissar, so people can start getting some cost insights visually through the front end. So perfect. Thanks a million for sharing that, Azan. Really appreciate it. In other kind of objectives for this month is the AWS support. So I'm just going to pop out this screen here because it keeps. There we go. So let me just make this a little bit smaller. Okay, I'll just leave it like that. But yeah. So in other work that's being done is the support of these additional AWS services that have not been integrated just yet. So that is for AWS, but it's applicable to GCP and Azure. One of the main objectives is to be able to have this kind of like main coverage of the main cloud services in at least the three big players. I know we have people, contributors on the team like Vishal, who is, once he's a little bit liberated from exams, he's going to be taking on Tencent. The increased coverage of Tencent is something that he's expressed interest in helping out with, and that's really great. But on the other hand, we're going to try and at least by the end of this year have a solid footing for the three main players. So then we can focus on other, admittedly more interesting work. This for anyone who is integrated and supported cloud resources, it's kind of repetitive work, but it just needs to be done, and that's why we're organizing three issues: one for AWS, one for GCP, and one for Azure. So we can just put just some concentrated work and just get it done by the end of December. So this is also happening in the background. And by the way, if anyone wants to help us out, please head over to the Extend AWS support issue, which is number 1249, and pick up any of these services to support. Would really appreciate it. And stay tuned also for the other two issues, which will be created, the ones for GCP and the ones for Azure. Another issue that we have and we would like to support and address by the end of the month is the Onboarding Wizard fix. So this is the way that you can use the front end, just a simple kind of like flick through wizard to be able to integrate your different cloud accounts before or without having to edit the without having to edit the config.toml file directly. At the moment, it's still slightly buggy and not working correctly. So this is another thing that we're trying. Avanesh has been working on this. It looks like Avanesh might be away this week, so we're going to try and give him a helping hand to get this fix shipped this week. And apart from that, once the services are then supported, we're going to, these are the services that I previously mentioned for AWS, GCP, and Azure. We're going to head over to the Explorer and add those resources to the resource dependency graph. And this kind of would round out what I mean by having a much more solid ground for starting the new year. If we can get the AWS, GCP, and Azure resources not only supported in Commissar and in the inventory page, but also supported in the resource dependency graph, then we're going to be in the perfect space to be able to start making the dependency graph much better, to be able to ship cost insights through the cost Explorer integration directly here into the resource dependency graph. That way you'll be able to zoom into a cluster, and you won't know exactly how much the resource costs, and this is for AWS. You will know exactly how much the resource costs for Civo, for example, and it will be the case for other cloud providers. But we're going to be able to start making this a much more robust feature for Commissar. That's going to give you much more insights, the cost coverage. You're going to know that the resource dependency graph view that you see here is going to be very, very reliable, a reliable mapping to your actual cloud provider environment. So we're really looking forward to getting stuck into that, but only when the work that I previously mentioned has been done. And in order to be able to get all of this done, Azan and I have been working and speaking closely about what kind of standards we want to set for ourselves, want to set for the Commissar community, and one of those is the kind of commitment that we're going to try as best as we can to ship one new release of Commissar every week. And we're going to shoot for Thursdays and or we're going to shoot for Thursdays and if possible, and if not possible on Thursdays, then on Fridays. But hopefully through this kind of commitment to getting a weekly release, we'll be able to coordinate a lot better with the contributors and make sure that we hit the goals, which are quite ambitious for Commissar. But speaking of goals for Commissar, that's going to hopefully this will be what will happen in December. But in the new year, we have a few things that we have in mind. These are things that, of course, we still have to bring to the community and talk together and see in which ways we want to grow Commissar, in which ways we want to grow the features. But I just had a few ideas, and this is just through a few things that have come up through some conversations with some users. One of the plans for the future of a potential way of extending the functionality of Commissar is an integration with ServiceNow. I'm not sure if anybody here or anybody watching has any experience with ServiceNow, but ServiceNow is a pretty big player in the IT management space. So it isn't only a manager of cloud or DevOps or SRE kind of tasks, but it pretty much extends the management to the whole IT kind of potential stack in most companies. It's incredibly widely used, and it would be interesting if we could get an integration. So, to be honest, first of all, just to explore how Commissar could complement users of ServiceNow. We have a ServiceNow user who said it would be really nice if we could get that integration. Up until now, I was just looking through the documentation. I saw that there's ways to integrate a service that you would have inside ServiceNow with an APM tool. But this seems to be if you want the APM tool to reflect the alert that takes place inside of ServiceNow. And I'm thinking what could be beneficial for a ServiceNow user if they're using ServiceNow as a dashboard. It would be interesting if this was reversed and we could get Commissar level alerts to be piped into ServiceNow. So this is just an idea to be explored. I think it would be really cool to start patching and seeing how we can stitch together Commissar to other tools to be able to just bring more value to people, and not always have to ask them to adopt a new tool if there's another tool that they already have heavily leverage. So that's one idea. Another idea, and by the way, write in the chat if you have any thoughts on this, or if this kind of brings anything to mind or anything. Another idea is this. Sorry, no, not this. It is this open source tool, which is called the CloudTrail Console Actions. It talks about a problem, which is that the CloudTrail is usually quite noisy. And if you were to go into your AWS CloudTrail console, it would be, in many cases, it's very hard to distinguish what alert is worth our attention, if like the criticality of the alerts isn't always that clear. So this Lambda function does that job for us to find actionable events and alert them through CloudWatch or Slack. And it could be interesting to be able to potentially integrate with Commissar, so we can get those alerts inside the Commissar dashboard and then pipe them out and kind of like repackage them also as Commissar alerts also, since a lot of people are using CloudTrail and a lot of people need help with CloudTrail. So this is just another idea of something that that we could potentially add to the roadmap. And yes, since Commissar is an open source product, this is for us to decide what the roadmap we would like to be. Sorry, Azan, I see that you have a question there. User will be using Commissar as a dashboard for data collected by ServiceNow. Now, I was thinking, I mean, of course, we could check the use cases in detail, in a little bit more detail, but I was thinking the opposite. I'm guessing that a lot of people are already heavily using ServiceNow as a consolidated dashboard, and I don't know what would be the best way, or potentially if one of the ways to go forward would be to make the Commissar level alerts available inside of ServiceNow. Maybe it's possible through simply a webhook kind of push that we could give from Commissar, but yeah, the initial idea was to make Commissar level alerts available in ServiceNow. But yeah, the assumption there is that people are using ServiceNow a little bit more heavily, and they wouldn't want to divide their screens. So yeah, another plan for the future, in which it will hopefully take place in early January, is the preparation for GSOC. This is going to be the first time that Commissar will participate inside of Google Summer of Code, and of course, it's not a given that that every project that applies can be eligible, but it's something that we're going to try for, and through the help of some of the contributors and through collaboration with Azan, we're going to try and get this get us in the best place possible, get the stories that we want to work on and features that we want to work on in a good place to be eligible. So hey there, Shabam, how's it going? So yeah, so this is going to be another one of the plans for the future in January. So that's pretty much it for what I had planned to touch on in this session for the contributor office hours in December. As you know, it's December for a lot of people has been a little bit slow. So so thanks a million for joining us here. Just before we go, yeah, the TAMS groups is a good way to get a summary. But yeah, right after this, I'll upload the recording to YouTube so you can catch it. But one thing that I wanted to say just before we go is a big Good luck to Azan, who next week will be participating in the final of Smart India Innovation 2023, which is a pretty interesting hackathon, which I didn't really know about until Azan told me. But yeah, he's going to be hard at work at this next week. So I don't think you necessarily need too much luck, but yeah, I really hope you and your team hit it out the park. And already congrats just to be there. So yeah. But anyway, if that's pretty much it for me. Thanks again for joining. As I said, I'll have the recording up on YouTube quite shortly. Have a great end of the year, everyone. A lot of us are going to be taking some time off, so maybe we'll only see you in the new year. So, so thanks a million. Have a good one, and catch you next time. Bye bye.